President Williams, faculty members, staff, distinguished graduates, parents, family, and friends, congratulations to the class of 2015. Thank you for giving me this distinct honor to address you on this very special occasion. Now, I know what you all are thinking. UVU gets Mitt Romney, Weber State gets NBA star Damian Lillard, and we get this guy? Who is this guy again? Now, that's what I love about Dixie State. They're continuing to educate you until the last possible moment. But don't worry, it's okay. I'm used to it. Some of you may have seen the commercials I filmed to help encourage voter turnout. I decided to try a man on the street routine like Jay Leno or Jimmy Fallon. I dressed casually, grabbed a camera crew, and headed out to talk to people about voting. It seemed like a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun. But just for fun, I decided to ask the question, do you know the name of the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Utah? Now, when Leno or Fallon do this, they edit out the people that know the answers for entertainment purposes. The good news for me, we did not have to pay an editor. There was no editing necessary. Of the 60 people I interviewed, only one knew the name of the Lieutenant Governor, and even he didn't know he was actually talking to the Lieutenant Governor at the time. So congratulations, graduates. You now know something that 99% of the Utah State does not know. Congratulations. By way of introduction, I was born and raised in the small town of Fairview, Utah, and I returned there to raise my 4 children 12 years ago. We have a couple Fairview grads here today. I will share more about that in a minute. But yes, I'm the crazy guy that commutes 200 miles to the Capitol every day. And on the late nights, my uncle lets me stay in his basement in Bountiful. Now, with all of the drive time, I have had plenty of opportunity to think about words of wisdom that I could share with you. In fact, I had an incredible speech prepared. It was funny and inspirational. It used words like dreams and success and changing the world. It even had the obligatory Dr. Seuss quote. And I threw in some Taylor Swift lyrics just for good measure. Unfortunately, the universe conspired to let me know that was not the speech I was supposed to give. So I'm going to have to shake it off, and fortunately, there's a blank space on the teleprompter here. So it all started a couple weeks ago when my neighbor was diagnosed with cancer. She's 2 years older than me. She's the mother of 5 children, 4 of which are the exact same age as my 4 children. A few days after the diagnosis, she underwent an emergency double mastectomy. 2 days later, the doctors informed her that they found tumors in her spine and her hip. In other words, stage 4 cancer. Now, here's the other thing that you need to know about my neighbor. She is one of the kindest, most generous, loving, and courageous people that I have ever known. The kind of person we all wish we could be more like. The researcher and author Brené Brown refers to these people as wholehearted. People who have a strong sense of love and belonging, who have the courage to be imperfect, the compassion to be kind to themselves and others, and embrace vulnerability. The New York Times columnist David Brooks refers to these people as stumblers, people who seem deeply good. They listen well. They make you feel funny and valued. You often catch them looking after other people as they do so. Their laugh is musical, and their manner is infused with gratitude. They're not thinking about what wonderful work they are doing. In fact, they are not thinking about themselves at all. He calls them stumblers because their lives often follow a pattern of defeat, recognition, and redemption. They have moments of pain and suffering, but they turn those moments into occasions of radical self-understanding. Now, as I thought about stumbling, I've reflected on some of the failures in my own life. In high school, I was convinced I would be an NBA superstar. You laugh now. Unfortunately, the coach, like you, didn't see it the same way, and I was cut from the team. Now, a lesser mortal would have been deterred by that fact. I, however, am very determined. In fact, I've always patterned my life like the great Winston Churchill, who said, "Success simply consists of going from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm." In fact, instead of being disappointed, I was actually excited. I knew that getting cut from my high school team would make an even better story when I actually made the NBA. So I tried out again next year. And much to my surprise, but not the coaches, I was cut yet again. Finally, I got the message and decided to turn my attention to something else, politics. I decided to run for student body president. I knew that at last I had found my calling in life. Only I didn't, and I lost to a guy nicknamed Smurf. And to make matters worse, I learned just last year, after 17 incredible years of marriage, that my own wife voted for the other guy. Now, this is the point of the talk where I am supposed to inspire you by saying that if you never give up and just keep trying, you too can take a huge cut in pay, become an unknown statewide politician, and live in your uncle's basement. But that was the old speech, and this speech is not about that. Now, some of you might have your wildest dreams come true, but all of you, everyone in this room, will experience disappointment, pain, and failure. As such, both Brene Brown and David Brooks would tell you that we need to spend less time focusing on the resume virtues and more time focusing on the eulogy virtues. Over the past few years, you have spent an enormous amount of time on the resume virtues, and that is important. But what will you do going forward? Over the next few months and years, you will face many decisions, big and small. How will you decide? Will your decisions be based only on status, wealth, fame, or a fear of failure? Or will you allow a place in your lives for courage, vulnerability, personal peace, and true happiness? Let me share with you one of those big decisions that my family faced. I graduated from law school and was working with a big law firm in Salt Lake City. I was making great money and was on the fast track to become partner. Now, sure, I was working 16-hour days, but I figured it was worth it. We had 3 little boys at the time and living on a quarter acre in Kaysville. But something didn't feel quite right. And then one day I saw a bumper sticker that said, "It's 99% of attorneys that give the other 1% a bad name." Now, I didn't get the joke at the time, but my wife gladly explained it to me. And I asked her a question. I said, "Is the world a better place because of what I do?" Now, you have to know that my wife grew up on a farm, and farm girls are often very blunt, and her answer was very simply this: absolutely not. And so we started to reevaluate our priorities. About that time, my dad called and asked if I wanted to take a cut in pay, there's a theme here, move back to the family farm and work with him in the telecommunications business. I decided to get advice from a couple friends. The first was a very successful attorney at the law firm where I worked. He told me I was an idiot for even considering such a move. How could I give up my future as a high-powered, high-priced attorney and move to the middle of nowhere? I was crazy to even consider it. The next person I talked to was Federal District Judge Ted Stewart, with whom I had served as a law clerk. He looked at me and smiled, and I'll never forget what he said. He said this: "Spencer, if you will go back home, you will have an opportunity to serve your family, your church, and your community. You would be the luckiest man on earth." Now notice, he didn't say anything about my job or my pay. He keenly understood the importance and the difference between the eulogy virtues and the resume virtues. In fact, what he realized was that if we took care of the eulogy virtues, the resume virtues would take care of themselves. Ironically, a few years later, my friend from the law firm came to help me on a lawsuit against Fairview City. And after spending the day together, he said, "I owe you an apology. I really get it now. You made the right decision for the right reasons, and I'm incredibly jealous." Now, that was a very big decision, and with a little luck and a lot of help from my wife, we got that one right. But I assure you that the small decisions matter too. let me share with you the most important thing that happened to me over the last month. But before I do that, let me assure you that this has been a pretty amazing month for me. I recently had long policy discussions with the Russian ambassador to the United States and the Afghan ambassador to the United Nations. I had an hour-and-a-half interview with the DC correspondent for The Economist magazine. I got to hang out with Jay Leno for an evening, and I even got to meet the President of the United States. But none of those things were the most important thing that happened to me. You see, last week, my 14-year-old son came to us and said, "Mom and Dad, this Friday is Victoria's birthday. Can you guys take us and some friends up to the mall, watch the Avengers, eat dinner, and just let us hang out at the mall for a while?" Now, as you might have guessed, Victoria is the daughter of my neighbor, the one with cancer. Of course I agreed, mostly because I was really excited to see the Avengers. And you should all go watch it, by the way. And so we took them to the big city, and they watched the movie, and they ate dinner, and they played at the mall, and we took them home. To be perfectly honest, I really didn't think that much about it until we were just getting ready for bed, and my wife's phone buzzed. And there was a text there. The text was from my neighbor. And it simply said this: "You made a very special girl's dream come true. Something I simply could not do today. I will never, ever forget it. I love you." And it was then that I remembered, we don't change the world by meeting with presidents or celebrities. We change the world by helping a little girl celebrate her birthday and find some light and joy in a very dark time. Now, graduates, today is all about you, and it should be. But I sincerely hope that this is the last day that's all about you. I conclude with the words of David Brooks on the power and grace of stumblers. The stumbler doesn't build her life by being better than others, but by being better than she used to be. Unexpectedly, there are transcendent moments of deep tranquility. For most of their lives, their inner and outer ambitions are strong and in balance. But eventually, at moments of rare joy, career ambitions pause, the ego rests, the stumbler looks out at a picnic or dinner or a valley and is overwhelmed by feelings of limitless gratitude and an acceptance of the fact that life has treated her much better than she deserves. Those are the people I want to be like. I hope they're the people that you want to be like. May God bless you in this journey forward. Congratulations and thank you.